I've been sacked from a job 4 times, I think. I've been made redundant either 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
I've been through plenty of ups and downs, always had a bit of a chip on my shoulder about the family business going down. But one problem, I had no money and I had no business. You treat every borrower like they are your grandma or they are your grandpa. A good borrower can create value out of a bad asset.
Yep.
A bad borrower can destroy value in a perfectly good asset. My dad used to say to me that if I don't invest in myself, I can't look after others.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Extraordinary Millionaire talk show. I'm joined today by Scott Marshall from Roma Finance. These talk shows are specifically aimed at bringing on the most successful people in their field, people that have excelled in life and have got somewhere special, probably with their fair of ups and downs. That is life. But with the Extraordinary Millionaire series, we are delving into the mindset for success, and also sometimes touching on the book, The Rock Bottom Paradox, which is part of this series, which brings you using those same techniques out of despair, depression, some of the low points of your life. And so when I'm talking to our guests, and there'll be lots of excellent guests coming on over the coming months and years, we'll be exploring what they've done to get where they are, to try and understand the psyche, to try and get some insight into the tools, techniques, habits, whether they've intentionally done these things or whether they do them naturally. It's my job to try and find out how they got to where they got to, and hopefully you guys can learn something from them that you can use in your own business and your own life. But Scott, without further ado, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thanks very much indeed.
Great to have you on. Yeah, really great to have you on. Now, you've done brilliant in your career. By way of a quick introduction, you're the owner and founder of Roma Finance, which is a specialist commercial lending business. You offer bridge loans, development loans, buy-to-let loans, and you help generally investors and developers build their businesses with great quality finance at a fair price.
Yeah, we're here to help our customers make money.
And your tagline is "You love to lend."
We do,
which is brilliant, And I think what we'll be able to explore through your journey and why I love working with you, and I like referring a number of my clients to you, obviously as well, is the way you do business. And I think what we're going to delve into here is not a business specific podcast. It's more about you personally and understanding your psyche and your journey and how you got there, and also how that reflects on your business. And so one of the first questions I want to ask, which is always interesting when you meet someone successful, is how did it all start?
So it's interesting what you were saying first of all, before I answer that question.
Yeah.
Which is that if I think back to throughout my life, I've been sacked from a job 4 times, I think. I've been made redundant either 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
I've been through plenty of ups and downs. I've seen my family business go pop.
Wow.
I was asked to leave my primary school for being too naughty.
Still too naughty.
Still too naughty. that cheeky side in me.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Where did it all start? I was in corporate finance as a whole, but essentially engineering degree, joined a family business, which is an engineering business. That had been going for 53 years, and unfortunately then went into administrative receivership. Before it went into receivership, I kind of realised that most engineering businesses are run by accountants and finance people. They're not run by engineers. And so I decided to leave engineering. This was my intention: leave engineering, go get an accounting qualification, go up through the ranks of an engineering business to be able then to go and run an engineering business. Wow. With the financial skills and tools, together with the engineering skills, to go and run that business. That was my intention.
So that's an important point right there, is you understood the on-the-floor business
Yes.
of engineering before you learnt to run it.
Yes. Yeah, so I understand how things are made.
Yeah.
I understand the disciplines that engineering teaches you I don't think are replicated in many other fields. And if I look at, for example, development finance, it's really engineering. Someone is building something, creating something. And, when I go to a site now and I meet a customer that's building something, it resonates with me because I feel that is what engineering is all about. Even though it's not called engineering, it's called construction.
Yeah.
The reality is the same. You're starting off with a set of plans. You're starting off with a number of different materials and components. You're putting it all, you're assembling it all into an end product that somebody either wants to rent from you, okay, or buy from you.
Yeah.
Okay, use it or buy it from you. And it's no different from, manufacturing widgets, manufacturing machinery. It is engineering, producing things, adding value, creating value that in a product that somebody wants to sell, or somebody wants to buy, or somebody wants to effectively lease from you.
And that's a very set of transferable skills as well when you learn that process.
Yes.
And that's what the Extraordinary Millionaire tries to show you, is those mindset techniques and ways of doing business.
Yeah.
So it's great to hear,
and I mentor some young people now, and often they will, they're thinking about a career in finance or thinking about a career in engineering, and I can map out, what a career path can look like in either one of those two fields, so that they can make the best success of their futures that they can possibly do.
So would you say, you mentioned there about your family business going pop.
Yeah.
That's obviously a big driver for you.
Yes.
Wanting to be successful, would that have been some form of trauma, if you will, to want to put that right? Just to talk me through what happened there.
I have got, and I've always had, a bit of a chip on my shoulder about the family business going down.
Yeah.
It's been going for, as I said, my grandpa started it. It's been going for 53 years. I saw them lose this fantastic business they'd built. I saw the impact on my dad. I saw PGs get called in. I saw pensions having to get cashed in. So all that going on, and I was only 25 when that happened.
Wow! So being on the rough end of almost repossessions and PGs in the lending market.
Yep.
So that obviously is now led into.
And I saw bad behaviour.
Yeah. Okay. So you wanted to do something better.
Yep.
Richard Branson is very famous for wanting just to go into a marketplace, disregard the competition, and do things better.
Yes.
He's a good example of an entrepreneur that does that. So that's a very similar.
And that was, and to be honest with you, that was the whole philosophy behind Roma. So if I look at, I left engineering, went into finance. I was going to become an accountant. Cut a long story short, didn't become an accountant. I went down the corporate finance route.
Turned out all right.
It turned out all right. Well, I went to a firm called Arthur Andersen. Arthur Andersen then had Enron.
Right.
Okay. I got made redundant
didn't work so well.
I actually didn't get made redundant. I applied for redundancy, got rejected, left anyway. Went to a boutique corporate finance firm, didn't work out, got made redundant again. And then I joined a subprime lender because I was desperate for a job. I needed a job. Wife was pregnant with our first child.
Right.
Joined a subprime lender, and the idea was that I would work my way in the different departments in that lending business, and get experience of all the different aspects of what they do.
Yeah.
My first, if you like, secondment was in underwriting, and I never left. So I went from underwriter to senior underwriter to head of underwriting, eventually to credit and risk director in a space of about 5 years.
Wow, that's a quick
within
rise.
that business.
Why do you think you were able to do that so quickly?
For a number of reasons. I think that. How can you say that?
Personality trait. No,
I think. Let me put it. I was able, because I understood engineering, because I understood finance, because I worked very, very hard. So often
so hard work.
six and a half days a week. I took on responsibility. I was always willing. You never say no to extra work.
Yeah.
When you're in a job, because
especially when you're coming up through the ranks.
Yeah, because that's the way that you get noticed, is by taking weight off the more senior people's shoulders, and you can make mistakes. You'll learn from the mistakes. You might get shouted at or screamed at, but you'll learn more when things go wrong than when things go right.
You weren't afraid of being shouted at?
No.
One of the chapters in our book is the fear of failure.
Yep.
And I think too many people in the world are afraid of tripping up and making mistakes, stepping outside the box, taking on that responsibility and then failing. But you weren't afraid of that.
No, well, I'd already failed.
Yeah, and
I'd been made redundant 5 times. I've been sacked 4 times. Yeah. So I wasn't afraid of. I'd failed already 9 times.
So you're good at failing.
So I was mastering. I was mastering failing. But essentially, going back to it, and what your point around disrupting markets. if I look at the business that I was then in, that subprime lending business, that whole business was predicated around what I now call property pawnbroking. Okay, insofar as everything was about the asset and everything was about the value of that asset and the loan to value.
Yeah.
At the time, the customer was almost irrelevant to the loan because it was a pawnbroking exercise.
I remember because there used to be self-certified mortgages, and you would just sign a piece of paper. As long as the property deal worked, you would get the mortgage. There was
correct. And what happened was I remember it so clearly. I presented a business plan to the people I worked for as to what direction I wanted to take the department that I was then credit and risk director forwards, and it was turning that on its head. So instead of putting the asset first, you put the people first.
Appreciate that. That's
okay, which is a nuanced way of looking at it, but that's what I felt was the right thing to do. So in other words, if you had a good loan at a high loan to value for a good customer, that's better than a loan for a bad customer at a low loan to value.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because you put the customer first. And again, cutting a long story short, it wasn't taken up. Then the global credit crunch failed again. I don't mind failing, and I'm about to fail again.
Not a problem.
You'll hear I failed again. So then the credit crunch happened. I was then effectively, as credit risk director, I was effectively just a very highly paid underwriter. My position was made redundant. I was asked whether I wanted to stay on half my salary. You never do that, okay? Because the moment that you take a lower salary, the questions later come, it's very hard to get back up. And at that point, I then walked rather than take the job at half my salary. Yeah. And I remember, again, by this time, I think we had 3 young kids, and my wife being absolutely distraught, like what we're going to do, how we're going to make a living. Yeah. And I remember turning around to my wife, Louise, and saying, darling, I do not know what's coming next, but all I can tell you is that I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders, and this is the best thing that's ever happened.
Great.
Now, I could not get a job for love nor money in the finance industry, because this was 2008, end of 2008, beginning of 2009, and there were no opportunities at all.
But you believe in yourself.
So what happened was, just before I left my previous employer, I was introduced to a new startup business. They needed an underwriter. I set Roma up, and the name Roma came from my late grandparents, who were called Rose and Max.
Oh, how lovely.
So that's where the name came from. Set Roma up originally as a subcontract underwriting service for that new startup business.
Okay. Yeah.
And that, I did that on a retainer basis for 18 months. I had a day job. So this was my hobby, if you like, evenings and weekends, underwriting loans for this new startup lender. And that business was in London. I didn't want to move to London when they offered me the position to join it full time. And so the work for me, for Roma, dried up. And I was like, well, what do I do now with Roma? What do I do now with Roma? Yeah. And I thought to myself, well, you know what? I've been in the industry now for 7.5 years. So I've been credit risk director at a large subprime lender. I've been underwriting loans as Roma for another startup business for 18 months. I thought, well, you know what, I'm going to have a go at lending myself. And it took me, so July 2010, we went away, and I spent the entire 2-week holiday looking at how I could form a business that would how Roma could become, have all the relevant accreditations and the credit permissions to go and lend. Okay. Came back from my holiday in August 2010, I should say, and Roma Finance, believe it or not, was then a registered financial institution with what was then the Financial Services Authority and the Office for Fair Trading and what have you.
Did you?
I had one problem.
Go on, sorry.
One problem. I had no money and I had no business.
Don't worry about that.
We'll worry about that later.
Sure, you figure that out later. Was there a point, or as you were going through your financial career, which was building, there must have been a point where you thought, I'd love to be a lender one day?
Yes, always.
Okay.
Always.
That's an important mindset.
I considered becoming a broker, but I felt that I didn't understand broking. Because when you're broking, your role is to be the client's champion. okay? But you're not in control of the outcome. And I didn't understand that because I'd been in lending for 6.5, 7 years, and it's a very different skill set.
Yes.
Working as an underwriter within a lender compared to working within a brokerage. It's two different skill sets, and I didn't have that skill set. So I ditched that, and even though it would have been easier to set up a brokerage, my heart was set on becoming a lender.
Yeah, really interesting. And that, goes to one of our key mindset techniques, which is visualization. So without knowing it, that's why I'm trying to eke out the skills you have naturally, or what sometimes successful people do naturally, knowingly or unbeknowingly, is they have a goal, but then they're taking steps towards that goal.
Yeah.
So you had a dream, a goal of becoming a lender.
Yeah.
And all of these steps, probably subconsciously or very much consciously, were moving towards that goal.
Yeah.
And that's a powerful combination of visualization and action. And you took massive action.
Yeah.
Combined with the goal.
Yeah.
Is key to the fundamentals of you getting to where you are today.
Yeah, but I also had this. I felt that I had the skill set to go and be successful at it, and the nuanced way in which I wanted to do it was the opposite of how the majority of the market operated.
Great.
And so what I felt was that by putting the borrower first rather than the asset first, so in simple terms, a good borrower can create value out of a bad asset.
Yep.
A bad borrower can destroy value in a perfectly good asset.
Yeah.
Therefore, get the borrower right, okay, and then the loan looks after itself. You could almost lend unsecured to a good borrower because they're good for it, because you trust them. You never would, but you could.
Yeah.
That was the philosophy behind it. Now, the other common sense bit behind it was that I spent all of my time in underwriting and none of my time in collections. And so I didn't have that skill set. And therefore, what I wanted to do was focus on people that were capable of adding value to a property, because effectively, whilst the loan balance over time is going up, the property value in theory is going up faster, which widens the delta between the loan balance and the value of the property that's de-risking the loan.
Yeah.
And therefore, I would never have to step in and go and collect and repossess, because I didn't have that skill set, that knowledge. Yeah. So there was a deliberate philosophy behind actually how to go and lend, putting the borrower first, and the type of transactions I wanted to go and fund, because it was de-risking the business and de-risking the
strategy in the
de-risking the potential for things going wrong.
Yeah. Now, a couple of the points that we talk about in the Extraordinary Millionaire are win-win relationships.
Yeah.
And building a good team around you.
Yeah.
Now, clearly, you've not done this on your own.
No.
You're a great, successful businessman. Tell me what it was like to start having to employ people and build a team. Now, having a huge team scares the life out of me. Obviously, I have a reasonable team and, lots of people that work with me in various different businesses. But I'm not a great line manager. I'd like to think I'm a good leader and can inspire people to do certain things.
Yeah.
But the day-to-day running, that's difficult for me. So how did you cope with that skill set of becoming, a leader or a business owner and building that team?
When you are starting a business, you've got your dream and you know what your North Star is.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to get other people to buy into that North Star, because most people just want a job, and they are. And so you've got to think that when somebody is joining your fledgling business, they are taking a massive risk by joining you and your company, as opposed to getting a job in an established business that is, in theory, financially far more secure than yours is.
Yeah.
And so you've got to always put yourself in somebody else's shoes. What's in it for them?
Great. And that's the fundamental to how you've been able to create win-win relationships.
And I've done that all the way through. So when I'm interviewing somebody for a job, I really don't want somebody who is just looking for a job.
No, absolutely.
Okay, I'm looking for somebody who is going to inspire me.
Yeah.
And I have a privilege of working with them.
Yeah, and someone that's better at their job than you would be at that job.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I learned a really valuable lesson. I remember this so clearly. So back in 2016, when we got the first institutional funding line into the business, I there was somebody working in the business, and at the time, I would do everything, even down to the compliance certificates for the funding line that we just got.
Wow.
Okay, I did it all.
Serious admin.
I didn't trust anybody to do it as well as me.
Yeah.
And then,
which is a real trait of entrepreneurs.
and then somebody said to me, "Do you know what? Why don't you give so and so a chance?"
Yeah.
Okay, no problem at all. Well, you kind of talk through it in all major details. And I was like, yeah. And then, okay, all right. So you've got it. You understand what you're doing? Yeah. Okay. And they're like, just okay, Scott, I know what I'm doing. But this person, they literally put it into a spreadsheet, did a pivot table, and the answer came out straight away. And that took me hours to do that, make it all right. And they did it in seconds. And I thought to myself, that was a moment where the penny dropped, where I realised that, first of all, delegation is not abdication, number one. Number two, there are other people that can do something better than you.
Yeah.
And if you see that, let them get on with it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so my ability to delegate, I wouldn't say is perfect.
No.
But I'm far better than I was, and it's all from the experiences of other people doing stuff better at what they're good at than what than I can do.
Yeah, and I think it's the old adage, the 80-20 rule. You're better off getting 80% out of 10 people than 100% out of one.
Yeah.
And accepting maybe slightly less on every task that you think you can do.
Yep.
And delegating that, and then you can build a business around it. And there are, like you said, better people. I'm rubbish at bookkeeping, accounts, putting out all the social media content in terms of scheduling it in all the softwares. I don't enjoy that. I'm not passionate about it, and I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
I'm a more high level person when it
I think the other thing is that you've always got to be saying, what is the business about? What is your business there to do?
Yeah.
And keep it simple, stupid. So going back to what I said to you right at the very beginning, which is Roma exists to enable its customers to create wealth for themselves and their families. So we're an enabler of people making money, particularly out of property.
And if they're making money, you're making money.
It's a win-win.
Another win-win.
Win-win.
Example of win-win.
And so if when we're looking at a case, again, going back to it, it is what is in it for the customer? Why is that borrower borrowing from us? Why does that applicant want to come to Roma? What value add can we give them? We are never going to be as cheap as a bank. We're just not. Because we borrow from banks in order to go and lend. So the banks are inevitably going to be cheaper than us when they're lending to the end user. So what is it that we can do that's going to add value to that borrower's journey, that's going to make them, or encourage them, I should say, to pay a bit more for a loan than they would get from somewhere else? Well, one of those things is speed. So we completely reinvented the whole legal process, and we were the innovator doing that about 10 years ago, where simple things like, if I give a set of instructions to the same borrower on the same property for the same loan, and I instruct 3 different lawyers, I get 3 different processes. Didn't want that. I wanted consistency. Right. So if we instruct now, we reinvented the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we know that, it is the dog wagging the tail rather than the tail wagging the dog.
Yeah.
So we know that if we give an instruction to a firm of lawyers, we can give a copy of those requisitions to the customer, knowing that our lawyer would have given their lawyer those requisitions to deal with. Yeah. And therefore we can speed up the whole transaction.
That's a great bit of advice there, and just pulling out the mindset that you've got there rather than the detail, is that by creating processes that are replicable and easily trainable, you're building a bigger business.
Yeah, and that's you can say to your partners, this is the way that we want you to work. If you don't want to work that way, that's fine. You're not the partner for us.
Absolutely, yeah. And you need to build, and that leads us on to a chapter in the book called The Law of Attraction.
Okay.
Now, the law of attraction is putting out what you want to receive. Yeah. Not in a spiritual sense, although some people work with it in that sense, but from a either positivity or negativity. In that sense, you're putting out what you need in a process, in this example, and you're going to attract the people that are prepared to work with your process, not the people that are rigid and difficult and are of a closed mindset. You want people to work with you on a growth mindset, that are prepared to work the way you want to work.
So just on that, there are 2 mantras that I have within the business for the people that work in the business. So the first one is that you treat every borrower like they are your grandma or they are your grandpa.
Yeah.
And the only time you don't is when they don't treat you like you're their grandson or you're their granddaughter. Okay, so we never ever disrespect our borrowers. We always treat them. We trust them, and customers. They are the people that pay our wages. Yeah. Okay, our borrowers pay our wages.
Don't do this. My goodness, we've worked with a few lenders over the years, obviously as experienced developers for 25 plus years. Yeah. And the amount of times you feel like you're begging for their business. Well, hang on, you're the customer. Yeah. You should be not begging for it, but you should be, treating us with some level of respect.
100%.
And, this is sort of, people will be watching this sort of going, wow, isn't Scott and his business refreshing to hear this from a lender? It's not every day you hear this from a lender. They're often too brutal and too.
And the other thing I say to my team is, when you come to work, you have to behave in such a way that when you go home, you're going to make your mum proud.
Yeah.
So, and it's just those two mantras, or three really. Number one, it's our customers who pay our wages. Number two, you treat every borrower like they're your grandma or they're your grandpa. Yeah. And number three, you've got to act in such a way when you're at work that you're going to make your mum proud when you go home.
Yeah.
Okay, and those three things, you don't need to give 95% of people more structure and more rigidity and more instructions other than that. As long as they understand the mindset and the philosophy that sits behind the business, they will engage in the way that you want them to engage, or the majority of people. And if we find somebody who doesn't behave in that way, and we've had some people, like all businesses have had people where it's not worked out.
Yeah, sure.
It's a little bit like a bad employee is a little bit like a cancer, because it can spread, because it's toxic. Yeah, it's toxicity, it can spread. And if you've, God forbid, you ever have cancer, and unfortunately my wife did have cancer, you cut the cancer out. Yeah, thank God she's okay. You cut the cancer out, okay, as quickly as possible. Yeah. The body heals itself. Yeah. Often stronger than it was before, and moves forward. It's really important that you've got to have the strength to be able to cut that cancer out quickly, to move forward as a business, because when you move forward, you'll be stronger than if you leave that within the toxicity within the organisation.
That's good advice, not just on a HR perspective about a person, but any decision in business. Making a decision and taking action is more important than procrastination and thinking about it and analysis paralysis. If you get a gut feeling, or you see signs that something's not going well, there's sort of maybe one warning, an official warning, maybe it's a member of staff, but other decisions, make them quick. Make decisions quick and fast, and move on, because it's easier to fail and move on and repair and do better than it is to recover from that kind of thing.
I think the other thing is you've got to have a culture where people are prepared to speak up, because what will happen is the vast majority of people in business do not want to rock the boat. Yeah, it's their livelihood. They come to work, they earn money, they go home. They often will look at a situation and they worry that by speaking up, it's the messenger that gets shot. Whereas I'd much rather know that there is a problem, because then I can deal with the problem. Absolutely. Or if somebody else is going to deal with that problem on my behalf, I can have their back in dealing with the problem. And encouraging people to speak up when there's toxicity, when there's bad relationships, do something about it. And you've got to encourage a culture within an organisation where people do have the courage to speak up and
share
what's going wrong.
Things that are going wrong. What's going wrong? Improve them. And that's also good advice. Just deal with problems head on, and they don't become a big problem.
Yes.
Before we sort of wrap up, I'd like to just go back into your personal routines, if I may, aside from fascinating and valuable business advice. Thank you for that. What's your morning routine like? Do you have a morning routine? There's a lot on the internet about this amazing routine, and Elon Musk gets up at 4 a.m. and he works 20 hours a day, so he claims he's more successful than someone that works 12 hours a day. And I'm a big believer in working hard. I'm not a believer in working yourself to the bone so that other areas of your life get neglected. There's clearly a balance. But just talk to me about your sort of morning and daily routine. Like, is there anything we can learn from that?
You've raised a really interesting point, actually. So during COVID, we were all working from home. And we haven't yet gone back to 5 days a week in the office. And I don't think, whilst I'm in charge of that business, we ever will. And the reason why we won't is that I actually enjoy working from home.
Great. Yeah.
And so if I enjoy working from home for some of the week, then why would I want the people that work with me to be in the office when I enjoy something myself? You've got to set the right example. And so, we're only operating a minimum 2 days a week in the office. People can do more if they want to. But go back to my routine. If I am in the office, I will tend to get up and get out of the house before 7. So I can be in the office, beating the traffic, and then I'm doing a 12-hour day, leaving when the traffic's died down to come home. But that really curtails my day. I've got an hour travelling each way sometimes.
It's quite
it's quite a long drive. Traffic in Manchester can be terrible.
Right, Manchester.
And it seems to be the council are making it worse and worse and worse. God knows why. But if I'm working from home, I can get up at the same time. I can do an hour's workout, and I can still be at my desk, ready for work with a freshened mindset by 8:30 in the morning.
I like that.
And so the time that and then I can, if it's nice weather, I can take the dog for a walk. I can go out for a bite to eat. I can still do a full day's work having not been in the office.
So you are adding what I would call mindfulness to your day in terms of the gym. You're mindful there, you're working out, you're getting your endorphins and your dopamine going. You're taking the dog for a walk, which in my view is a form of meditation and mindfulness, which is stuff we talk about in the book. You're finding ways to give your mind a break to get fresh. I hope you're not on your phone in the gym constantly.
No, not at all.
I try and put my phone away.
So I was in the gym this morning. So it's this morning in a hotel before I came here. We didn't start, I think, till 9 o'clock. Taxi was at 8:30. I was up at 6:30 in the gym until about 7:45.
How often do you go to the gym? Out of
3 to 5 times a week.
Yeah, so every other day.
Yeah, a bit mix of cardio and weights, and the other thing I take is creatine.
Okay.
So everyday creatine, and creatine, whilst it's good for your body, is actually fantastic for your mind as well. It makes your mind much sharper and reduces fatigue. And I've seen a material difference in my ability to focus and concentrate.
Interesting.
In a work environment since taking creatine.
Do you take any other supplements, and is there anything you dietary wise you are conscious of? Sometimes it can be hard to eat well, can't it, when we're on the move or client sites?
Yeah, I've got a bit of a problem with food. I enjoy food a lot.
I love food.
I really enjoy food a lot. I struggle with the disciplines of knowing when to stop eating.
You look great.
I don't eat bad food. I just enjoy eating a lot of it.
Yeah, okay.
So
it's okay from time to time.
Yeah.
You look perfectly healthy, and you're obviously, it's not affecting your work-life balance. I think there's a lot out there scaring people about health and food and habits. I think people out there need to find their own regime that works for them, but make time for your health, make time for sleep, make time for meditation and mindfulness.
So I've recently, for the past 18 months, I've had a personal trainer. And I was and I was debating. This is really interesting. And I was debating whether to have a personal trainer or not. And it's quite expensive, this particular personal trainer that I've got. Anyway, I remember asking for references who this PT works with.
Really?
And he works twice a week with my local rabbi.
Okay.
Yeah. So I phoned the rabbi and I said to him, Rabbi, you've got this personal trainer twice a week. I said, it's expensive, isn't he? Yes. And I checked that he was paying the same as I was paying. He was paying the same. So I said, how do you justify the expense of this expensive trainer? And your schedule, I'm busy. I said, but you will be another level of busy.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So he said, my dad used to say to me that if I don't invest in myself, I can't look after others.
That's very good advice.
And it was that piece of advice where I said, right, okay,
brilliant.
That is it. I now need to invest in myself. I'm just about to turn 50. If I don't invest in myself, I'm not going to be here for my family. I've got obviously a stressful job.
That's amazing.
And I took that advice, and I still have this personal trainer between once and twice a week. It's made a massive difference.
That is an amazing bit of advice to end on. Thank you, Scott. And I've had similar experiences to that bit of advice, and we talk about that kind of advice in the book. Is you can't give to someone else emotionally, mentally, physically until you're okay yourself.
Yeah.
And if you're in a position where you're not able to help others and you feel down and depressed, the rock bottom book is the book to pick first.
Yeah.
We're going to learn some of these techniques.
The easiest way of describing it is that if you're in an aeroplane, whose oxygen mask do you put on first and why?
Okay, there you go. Let's leave that one for the viewers at home to ponder, and let's have some comments on your answers to that question. It's been great having you on, Scott. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Some unbelievable nuggets of wisdom, advice, hearing Scott's personal journey to where he's got to and built Roma Finance today. It's commendable, and it's not obviously been an easy ride at times. And I hope that his journey has inspired some of you guys to further your careers, your life, pull yourself out of rock bottom, or become an extraordinary millionaire, and everything and anything in between in your own life, whatever that means to you. Please do grab the books. I hope they help you. Please comment on this video and like and subscribe. We'd love you to follow this talk show. We've got lots of great guests coming on that are successful in their own space that you will be able to learn from and get great nuggets of information to help you move forward with your own lives. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next talk show very soon. Take care for now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.